So I was talking to a client, and he said he was doing 1 hour feedback. So I'm like, whoa, that's just way too long. That's not going to work. It's a big red flag. Anyways, I kept asking him questions, and I kept seeing a lot of mistakes. I've noticed as a lean consultant coach for continuous improvement on leadership positions, and I've noticed this in a lot of managers. The biggest mistake is a lot of people don't have the clear purpose of what feedback is for. And this is really important because it sets the standard. It gives you a lot more clear way of a best practice. Anyways, I've asked this in a lot of courses and in exams and in workshops, and the most common question, the most common answers I get is what's the purpose of the feedback is to inform and to reprimand. So that's a big no. Anyways, the purpose of the feedback should be to modify the future behavior of the recipient, right? Otherwise, why are you even talking? I mean, are you complaining? It's just giving a crazy opinion? Are you just talking to a wall? You have to have that clear purpose, right? And that's going to give you a framework on how to do it, and which I'll share with you a little bit. Anyways, there's 3 main things that you shouldn't do. One of them is you shouldn't postpone. You shouldn't delay feedback. If you can, give it at that moment. And if you can't for X reason, whatever reason, you can wait a few minutes, maybe a few hours tops, but don't postpone it for another day, another week. Don't postpone it until the end of the month, and don't make the biggest mistake of talking about someone's behavior on their yearly performance review, right? So another big no-no is don't attack the person. Never attack the person. Never insult the person. It's not them. It's the system. It's how you do things. It's your process, right? And there's a lot more going on in each of these points. But anyways, continuing on is never question past behavior. And let's say, for example, you have someone who's always tardy, right? Who's always late, never punctual in any cases. And if you go to them and you start like, well, John, tell me, why are you always late? And parenthesis, I know it's important to know the root causes and to see if we can help and everything, but there's ways to do things, right? And you should not question their past behavior in this specific sense, because what they are going to do is they're going to make up excuses. They're going to justify them by saying, well, I don't know, the car was broken, the battery didn't work, there was a lot of traffic, I don't know, Siri gave them bad directions, or whatever the excuse is. And then you end up in a conversation where he's trying to be right, and he's trying to be like less bad, for example, and it doesn't work. Anyways, I have a FEG. It's an acronym, FEG. It's a feedback cycle. It stands for feedback, expectations, and goals. And there's a framework on how to do this. And I did it because I was working at a big manufacturing company. There were over 4,000 employees per plant. And each manager always was complaining that they didn't have enough time. So I did this. I designed this in a way that they were giving feedback in 60 seconds. And the really pro ones, the guys that dominated this framework, they were giving feedback in 20 seconds with good results, with a good work culture, and all focusing on continuous improvement in the organizational development. Anyways, this is the real quick one. First of all, this is the framework for the feedback. First of all, you gotta solicit the feedback. You know, you gotta ask if you can give feedback, right? So you can go, for example, hey John, can I give you feedback? If he says no, because he's not there mentally, he's really busy, whatever, then you can let it go and come back to it a few minutes, tops 2 hours after that, right? Don't, like I said, don't postpone it for days, etc. But this is the important one, and I want to be clear on this. The reason why you ask if you can give feedback is because its purpose to modify the future behavior of the recipient. If they're not there, if they're mad, if they're just distracted, well, you're going to be talking and they're not going to be listening. You know, there's not going to be, it's not going to be like a dialogue. It's just going to be a monologue, and it's not going to be an effective one most of the time. So avoid it, right? The other thing is, this is really important. Before you give that, before you introduce a change, before you implement a change, you gotta introduce that change. What I mean is, you gotta be really specific and clear to all your employees and telling them that what feedback is for, how is it gonna be done, and just that, right? You don't want people to have the idea that when you ask them if you can give them feedback, they're gonna be like reprimanded, right? So anyways, going on, then you gotta allow for people to, say no. Then your communication has to be inside 60 seconds, right? It shouldn't take you longer than that, because we're talking like one specific point, like I said, 2 tops. And then we can personalize your framework, but generally speaking, what we've done and got good results with is the first incident. It should be with a laissez-faire leadership, which is just let it be. Just tell them what it needs to be done, and then you gotta confine them. You gotta trust that they'll do it. And there's even more framework, specific things how to say it. But if there's a second incident, then it should be a more argumentative style of leadership, right? Where it's not an argument where you're gonna fight, but it's argumentative for where you're gonna get information, so you can be helpful in things, in leading them, right? And then if there's a third incident, then we got problems, and that's why your leadership has to adapt. And then we go into a directional mode, right? There's no more questions of why and why not and how you can help them. Now you give them a straightforward plan to action. They gotta follow up, and then they gotta report to you. And then you gotta give the follow-up, right? That's a big important thing. And then really quick in the FEG cycle, when we're giving feedback, we gotta make sure we're communicating the 3 C's of communications. And there's you gotta say what's the conduct, or behavior, what's the context, and what causes, or what is gonna happen if they keep doing that, right? Okay, so on the second step is you gotta communicate your expectations, right? And you gotta be really clear. You gotta use the 7 C's of communications, where you have to be really clear. You gotta be coherent. You gotta be complete. You gotta be concise. You gotta be. I'll share them with you in somewhere else, but because I'm gonna be here a long time, and I don't want to end up doing a 15-minute video. Anyways, the third step is you do the goals, and depending on what style of leadership, you can either use really quick. SMART goals, you can use the growth method, or you can just implement something with the Kipling's Six Honorable Men, right? The six Whys, I think it's also known for. Anyways, it's why, who, when, where, what, and when, and you got to make sure all that information is there, right? So just to sum up, it's been 10 minutes. It was gonna be like I swear it was gonna be like a 45-minute story, and ended up being a long video. Anyways, to sum up, no long feedbacks, right? And it's gonna take practice, I know, but it's gonna also help you. It's gonna help you in a lot of ways that I'd just contact me, and we can talk about this. We can have a session. I can teach you these things, and I don't want to make this video longer. Then the other thing is, remember, the purpose is to modify the future behavior of the recipient. Don't attack the person. Don't insult the person. It's not them. It's the system. It's the way you do things. It's your processes. And then you just gotta make sure you really have really good communications, right? And your leadership style has gotta be adapting depending on the context. Anyways, I know this is gonna help. I got so many other tips, and they're not tricks. They're tips on best practices. But like I said, I'm a lean consultant coach for continuous improvement and organizational development. I speak Spanish and I speak English, like you see, and I have workshops, I have seminars, I have conferences, I have one-on-one sessions, I have projects, continuous improvement projects for big companies. So if you want to take your leadership to the next level, definitely contact me, and we'll see how we can work together. Thanks.